Well, good morning, everybody. I need to turn my volume up here. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and let me get everything. I did this once. I'm doing it over again. I didn't like how it turned out. So, anyway, welcome to Esoteric Influences for the 12th day of June, 2020. How about that? All right. Now, let me get my notes back up on the screen. I just, I listened to it and I thought, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I like that one. So, anyway, we're looking at we transitioned from the 11 energy yesterday. Our numerology for yesterday on the 11th was the master number 11, suggesting illumination and awakening and all of that. Today, though, on the 12th day, that reduces to 3, and so we have a 3 energy. So we're talking, and I hate this expression, mind, body, spirit alignment, because it always seems to indicate that spirit is last on the list, when in fact it should be like spirit, body, ego alignment is how it all actually should be. I think anyway. I think the ego should be down at the very, very bottom, and the one that receives the blessings from spirit. Instead, it just seems like ego controls the room, doesn't it? So when we talk about today's mind, body, spirit alignment, let's think about it in terms of spirit, body, ego alignment, where we're transmuting ego into spirit. And use it to align in Fridays. Today's Friday, so we're talking Venus energy, the Venusian influence, and seek harmony in our interactions with others today. I just saw a thing on Twitter about the police have left a certain section of Seattle. They've abandoned it. They've abandoned it to the people. And so you've got people there in this one tennis courts. I guess you've got people rollerblading and skateboarding. You've got little food tents that are set up. They're free food, and people are just having a wonderful time with one another. It's basically become a love fest. And so it kind of shows you when you get whatever the police have become. When you get that energy out of the situation, some amazing things can happen. So again, when we align in spirit and let spirit inform everything, and ego is no longer in the way, we can accomplish anything. And so use that influence today to maintain harmony with others and to seek a better path that's shared forward. The rune for today is Kenaz. It was actually part of next week's Esoteric Influences, so I have it right here. That I'm doing, by the way. That'll be up on Sunday, and then I'll do one of these on Sunday and talk about Sunday's influences. But in any event, Kenaz is the torch. It's a rune of the fire element, so it's about the will. But it's about the presence of source energy in our lives and having that motivate our choices and our manifestations, instead of, again, having the ego do that. It's about the light of spirit, illumination, clarity, revelation, healing, well-being, love, intuition, transformation, creativity, and again, awakening. I wrote a piece yesterday because of it being a 6-month, an 11-day, and a 22-year. I wrote a piece on Medium called Is Today's Master Number 11 Signaling a Turning Point? I wondered if maybe there would be something that would come out, and then I noticed that while I was writing it, General Milley had come out and said, well, I'm sorry for everything that I did, wearing the fatigues to the photo op. I shouldn't have done that. He did it at a meeting, too, of upper echelon military type folks. And so to apologize to them in that setting, that's actually a really big deal. To come out and do this and have it essentially be against or in opposition to the guy in the Oval Office, that again is a big thing that he did. So we'll see. Could it be something like that, or could it be the guy in the Oval Office's own words saying things like yesterday that he said, oh yes, it was a beautiful sight to see the National Guard cutting through protesters like butter, or referring to the U.S. Secret Service, which the acronym USSS, as his own SS. Just referring to him as the SS. Well, that's Hitler's SS, and we already know that he values the words of Hitler. So is he got it confused in his mind? I don't know. But there was a lot of things anyway that came out that, between the 3 energy today for the numerology and Kenaz as the rune, it's illuminating our path forward. We're figuring out in other words, we're figuring out who the us of this is and who the them of this is, and the them that needs to either change their heart and become part of the us or go away. If we cannot live now in service to the greater collective, then we've lost completely. So, and I think that that's not what's going to happen. I think right now you're seeing way too many things going on that didn't go on before. So I think it signals a complete sea change in how we see things. The perceptions are changing now in this 22 year with the light of spirit projecting what needs to happen versus what the dark forces would prefer to remain. We can't allow that anymore, not in this time of ascension. The moon is in Pisces again today. If stress gets too much, take time to rest, particularly if you're empathic or highly sensitive, because we cannot be of help to anybody if we can't stay centered when vampiric energies, and I say vampiric in the sense that not necessarily pathologically so, but people are scared and worried and they don't know what's going on, and life is unsure and uncertain. And when that happens, we express our energy outward in search of like-minded energy, in search of source energy. That's why that's happening. And so empathic people that are highly sensitive, we already operate on that soul level anyway. We didn't give that up when we came into form. We didn't give up that focus or that awareness the way most people do, but it doesn't mean they need to stay there. They can always remember who they are and start bringing in that type of awareness, that intuition and that empathic connection that we all have with one another, because that's what being an empath is. We're just remembering and being aware of our soul connection when we're in the non-physical side of self. We just didn't let go of it. Some of us don't. There has to be people here that don't forget so that we can remind everybody else of it, basically, and set that example so that we can keep turning in the direction of ascension and of raising our frequency to something higher and more soul-based and out of this ego type of environment that keeps us so attached here. This was just a playground. That's all it was meant to be. But instead, there was some shifting going on and some manipulation going on by others in the universe that changed some things about us. So now, and then structurally, our society, on a world level, became patriarchal, and now here we are. This is the last vestiges of that, trying to hang on for dear life, while the light of spirit is coming in and saying, no, no more, no more, enough. So if things get too much, that's why. All right. Focus on spirituality, spend some time in meditation, work on the breathing. You're breathing into the count of 4, holding to a count of 4, breathing out, exhaling to a count of 4, holding to a count of 4. Do it in 8s if you have to. I prefer it in 8s. I just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. If you like that cadence, I personally do. I talk about that in Shifting Perceptions, my most recent book, where I'm trying to get people to understand who you really are as spirit and just start shifting your focus to that and away from the ego. So that's one of the ways you can start to do that, to draw your attention back to your still point, to the point of spirit, and focus from that standpoint outward. So express the Kenaz in your life, basically. But anyway, there's a semi-square between the moon and Jupiter that cautions against grandiosity. But here's the thing. If you are affected by the Pisces energy, it's going to be the grandiosity of other people's energy that's going to affect you today. So just be aware of that. If you've got somebody in your life that that's just loud, my husband is loud. And so, not always, but sometimes just loud. It's like, And so for me, it's like this massive blast of energy in my direction when he's being loud. And so I have to just go, oh my God. So just be aware that it might not feel comfortable to you if you're, empathic or intuitive or whatever, to be around the greater energy today, however that wants to manifest. Seek the counsel of female friends or family if needed, and that's the Moon Conjunct series. So, and yes, we do include goddess planets in this whole thing if it's appropriate. If it's a strong aspect, and it seems like it's going to matter, I'll put it in, and we'll consider that as well in terms of the astrological influences. Now, moving on to the human design ones from the esoteric influences. Remember, at the bottom is the biggest one. Well, it just looks bigger because I have each chart for each day, so it's this massive section. But really, it's only a couple of paragraphs for each one. But in that, I kind of try to look at the 7 sacred planets. I take a look at and how they're influencing around in the I Ching, interacting with the I Ching. Because instead of, houses and things like that, or that you normally see on a regular astrological chart, you're going to see the I Ching and all the lines all the way around. And wherever the planets follow, they're interacting with that particular I Ching hexagram and its particular line. And so in human design, they call them gates and lines, but it's the same thing. It's the gates or the hexagrams. And then the little ticks around it are the lines. And so on each I Ching, if you want to look at it, Human Design offers these rave cards you can buy, and they're very cool. It shows the particular hexagram on the one side. And then here you'll show gate 22, which is actually hexagram 22 or Gua 22, however you want to see it. And it's about grace. And then you can see it's openness on one side and grace on the other. But you're looking at the different lines, second class ticket, charm school, the enchanter, sensitivity, directness, and maturity. You have the first 3, the lower 3 that are personal in nature, and the top 3 that are transpersonal. So in terms of the collective or society or interacting with others. And so that's kind of how that's kind of a shortened version, really. There's so much more to it. This is almost insulting to do it this way, but that's what we're looking at. And so the planets will be at one of these positions, at one of these lines. Okay, if it's at gate 22, it's going to be at one of these lines. And so maybe you'll see it move throughout or something. It'll tick from one to the next until it goes through all 6, and then it moves on to another gate. You'll even see that in its progression. If you look at the ephemeris, you can kind of see that pattern emerging. But in any event, when it is comprised of 9 centers, we have 7 chakras, but we actually have more than that. There's a whole lot more than that, but they're just energy centers. But in this, there's 9 instead of 7. And so if you connect one to the next, one gate to the next, then then a channel is formed. And so I also like to look at that. Right now, we have the channel of awareness that's active, and it's the design of the thinkers. So we're planning and we're strategizing and we're paying attention to what the real truth is, and we're using intuition as well to do that. So it's not just, paying attention to what the guy in the Oval Office says. No, it's knowing that you can't, that you actually have to figure out what's really going on. And that's what we've been contending with now for the last, 3.5 years. So what I said today, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just omit this section right here is dealing with the sun, the Venus, the Earth, the moon, and Mercury's effect on everything. And then the last one is going to have more to do with Mars. But this first section, given the stark contrast between the federal response and the voices for change among the people, a new collective leadership is emerging. As we remain adaptable to change, we're willingly accepting the responsibility necessary to achieve that single-minded objective of racial justice. And that's placement, again, where the sun is placed, Venus, Earth, Moon, and Mercury are all placed. Bring this out today. Suggest all of this today. Now, the Mars aspect, though, is getting its own paragraph. Mars has a catalytic energy about it. It is passionate. It can be out of control. It can also initiate things. So it could be the sign of leadership. But when it's ill-dignified, it can be a little, pushy. So we're all in this together, whether considering the pandemic or the quest for racial justice. The sensitivity is required now and will be for the foreseeable future. So blessings to all who understand and embrace this truth. Again, control the Mars energy within, control the reaction, make it come from spirit. And I think that we're going to get through this a whole lot better. Again, Seattle in their no cop zone right now. The police boarded up the precinct. They changed it to, instead of Seattle Police Department, I think it says Seattle People's Department or something. And they just left. They just left. They abandoned it to the people. The people are happy. They're thriving. There's free food. There's everybody's milling about. They're socially distancing. They're skateboarding. They're rollerblading. They're doing what we do. It reminds me of Hempfest, truly. But anyway, Hempfest, if you've never been to Hempfest, and I don't know if they're going to have it this year, they may not, but Hempfest is fun. We've been a couple of times, and it's just fun. We tend to like to head way down to the end, to the techno tent, where they've got techno music. It just, I don't know what it is about techno music and me, but it's tribal. Okay, it's tribal, and I love it. It's just, it draws me, and so it's like, okay, we'll look a little bit at things, but we're heading down to the techno tent, right? And everybody's dancing, and it's just a lot of fun. So I don't know. Hopefully they have it this year. They can do it safely, and everybody can have fun. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know why it reminded me of that, but it did. But that's what's happening up in Seattle now that the police are gone. Look, sometimes violent energy congeals together and it draws other violent energy in. If this is in truth what the majority of the police departments have become in this country, then clearly, there has to be something else happen now. You've got different ones. Was it Denver that ended their relationship with the police department, the Denver School District? You're finding that school districts are doing that. They're ending the relationship. They're getting the police out of the schools. It's too much. Again, it's too much for the nervous system to handle. When there's so much uncertainty over who you can trust, and it doesn't matter. We've all had this happen in our personal lives where maybe we discover there's a friend we can't trust. It's like when, a couple realizes that one has been unfaithful, when the other realizes the other spouse has been unfaithful or the other partner's been unfaithful. It turns everything upside down. And I know that in truth, it doesn't turn everything upside down, but it does. It turns everything upside down, right? And it's like all of a sudden, everything you thought you knew, you have to go back over all of it and say, well, is that what I saw? Is that what, or was I being fooled? It's like when somebody has an agenda and is trying to push things in a direction that the other people involved don't realize is happening. And so you end up being duped and used. To me, it just feels like that on steroids right now, where the government, sure, we all know the government has problems, and I don't care if it's local government, state government, federal, it doesn't matter. It always has problems. You're always going to find corruption. You're always going to find somebody trying to get away with something, because that's just what people do. So why wouldn't they do it there? It's like all of a sudden, oh no, I'm in authority now, so I'm not going to take advantage of it. Well, this is the time they're going to, right? There's like, oh, big opportunity. Well, apparently it's a whole lot more widespread than what maybe we wanted to believe. But I think that there's a certain segment of the population, and maybe that's different for every circumstance here, but there's a whole lot of us now that know this is just how it is. That this is, and it's been how it is for some time. I remember when we homeschooled the kids, we pulled them out when they were, the oldest had finished 7th, the youngest had finished 4th. And we just had enough. The schools weren't safe. They were disrespectful to the children. Um, my kids were gifted, so I just thought, this doesn't seem like the best place for them. We've been looking into homeschooling. I talked to some people who were doing it. Same sort of ideas that we had, same attitude, same reason. And we were martial artists, and so the idea that a child in our school district can't defend himself or herself from an attack without risking, well, without an automatic suspension and subsequent arrest. See that there's something wrong if you can't, if in this country our children are not permitted to defend themselves, if they're just supposed to lay down and take it. My youngest son was pushed into an altercation, and a bully, a sixth grader, when he was fourth grade, he was smaller. Sixth grader was big for his age, and he had my son's friend in a headlock. Well, the kids circled around trying to say, stop, stop. Someone pushed my son in. The guy let go of his friend and grabbed my son, and my son, who was a martial artist, didn't do anything, was put in detention for fighting. And so I called and I said, I'm hearing a different story from him. Would you check it out further? And they did, and sure enough, he had done nothing wrong. He was a victim. But what bothered me was the fact that he didn't defend himself, and he had the skills to do it, because he was more afraid of what would happen to him from the school district and from the police department than he was about his own safety. So we pulled them out at the end of, that was toward the end of the year when this happened. And so when they finished, I just informed the school they weren't coming back. And we had all kinds of little, comments. But, my kids went to college. They both graduated. They're both working in the tech field. One's a computer engineer. The other is the technical director for a marketing company. He's also a programmer. So, it worked out fine for us. But when you realize that the system is against you on a systemic level. In other words, it's like when the police want you to leave the protest, but they slash your tires so you can't. Or they want you to disperse because the curfew's in effect, but they're controlling both ends of the street and you can't leave. And then the pepper spray starts flying and the flashbang grenades or whatever the heck they're using start firing. You can't leave. They won't let you. And now you're going to be arrested for it, or you're going to be harmed for it. You can't, in war, you can't attack a Red Cross place or whatever. Is it Red Crescent? Is that the other? I don't know. You can't do that. You can't attack it. And you can't attack med tents here in protests either, but that's what's happening. Nurses trying to deal with and I saw the video, deal with someone's head wound and blood everywhere, right? She's trying to deal with it at the med tent. And because it got hit with a rubber bullet in the back of the head. Next thing she knows, she's being sprayed with those pepper balls. The police are spraying her with pepper balls. They're attacking her. They're shooting her. The nurse at the med tent. Yeah. So this is where we're at now. And whether this is something, these influences can help you today in your daily life, personally something's happening along these lines, or whether this is just, the greater situation we're all dealing with. We're still dealing with a virus that's increasing now because, again, every time there's a holiday, we're going to have Father's Day coming up here shortly. Going to be another point of transmission, basically. So, what do you do? What do you do? Well, you wear a mask. If you're going to be out and about, you're going to be with people, stay apart, wear a mask, wash your hands. This is going to get worse before it gets better. And according to Dr. Fauci and the CDC, we're only at the beginning. We haven't even gotten through one phase. And because we did it the way we did it, because the federal government would not help when they were supposed to, well, we're where we are. So hang in there a while longer. Just, you don't have to not go out unless your health is such that you shouldn't. You can go out, but don't. Just be smart about it and protect yourself and protect other people. Just wear a mask. It's cool. I mean, some of the masks people are wearing that they've made, they're really cool. They're cool to look at. And it's just cool that someone else will take that time. I can't tell you what it's like for us, my husband and I, to go out and about now, be involved with other people and to see that they're not doing anything. They're just acting like nothing's happening. If it's not so much in your area, it's not so much in mine, but it will be. I guarantee you, come fall, the low numbers we have here, it was bad enough on Mother's Day. We had a Mother's Day party, and 8 people got sick from it. So obviously somebody came in or was maybe over in the valley, came back, asymptomatic, didn't know they had it, gave it to everybody. My city had 10 people. Now we have 18. I haven't checked today to see if that's increased. But suddenly, after that Mother's Day weekend, suddenly we had 18. So, and I realize that's not much, but you know what? We're in the center of the state, so we're kind of isolated. But this is a tourist section. You think that over the summer, people aren't going to come here? Oh, I mean, like I said, I haven't even looked to see what it is today, to see what the effect of Memorial Day weekend is going to be. And then Father's Day, and then the 4th of July, right? Then we might have a little bit of a reprieve, but then we have Labor Day in September. Kids go back to school, maybe not. Hopefully not. I just hope everybody would homeschool, but we can't do that, can we? So again, we'll take the positive where we can and we'll build on it. And if we can just ratchet down the violence from the police so we can get this all figured out and restructure things. It's like people say, oh, well, you don't want universal health care because no doctor will want to be a doctor. Excuse me? You mean if they can't drive a Mercedes and have 6 homes, they don't want to be a doctor? It's going to affect how they treat you? I don't think so. I think people that want to become doctors, they do so. They want to go into the healthcare field, they do so because they want to help people. They're going to be well paid. I don't know why anybody thinks that they wouldn't be well paid. Why wouldn't they be? But to think that, oh, we can't have universal health care because, oh my God, it's like, are we that? Are we really those kind of people? Because if we are, trust me, there's a whole lot of people out there that would love to go to college, would love to go to medical school, would love to be a doctor, but feel like they don't have the money. Maybe those are the ones we need, and not the ones that see dollar signs. Because I'm sure they exist. I'm just saying I don't think it's most of them. And I don't think it should stop us from moving forward on universal health care. It's like, let's grow up. Let's just do the right thing instead of finding excuses for why we can't. Let's find some excuses for why we're gonna, and why we will, and why we shall. All right? So anyway, that's it, I guess. And, hang in there, stay safe, stay protected, and be good to yourself, be good to one another. I can't remember if I told you I wrote something on Medium. It was on the 11 energy yesterday, so check that out. If I didn't say it, because I did this once before, I did on the first one. We'll see. I don't know if I did today. It's called "Is Today's Master Number 11 Signaling a Turning Point?" So anyway, go check that out over there. Watch for the esoteric influences on the blog. They'll come out Sunday. Correspondences will go up today, also tomorrow, and then. Look for these little videos. They'll be out too on the Esoteric Influences. Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune will come back on Monday. And I guess that's it. So be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.